Do you remember that TV show called Manimal?
My God, we were just talking about it the other day, dude.
Really?
We only brought it up because there was a Rahul Roy movie in the 90s.
Junoon.
called Junoon.
We were talking about how that transformation scene scarred us.
I was genuinely scared when I saw it, and I still remember that very creepy scene outside the swimming pool. He's killed this lady the previous night as a tiger, and the next morning, while the cops are just investigating, he's at the balcony just picking his teeth. Oh my God!
Hey everybody, welcome to another very special episode of Crossover Event, the show where unlikely nerds collide, or at least in this case, Dinkar and I are not interviewing an unlikely nerd. He's very much a nerd. We know it because we've seen his collection firsthand. We have Abhijit Kinney. Abhijit, thank you so much for being here. Before you say even a word, allow me to just talk about your illustrious career. Literally, you're a Comic-Con award-winning artist, comic book writer. You've written and animated so many things over the course of the last 10-15 years in your career. You've contributed to Tickle Comics, something that is part of so many people's childhoods here in India. Defective Detectives, but of course you've made a legacy of your own with titles such as Angry Maushi, Rhyme Fighters, so on and so forth. So with that, thank you so much for being once again on a Geek Fruit show. Thank you for being here, Abhijit. How are you, man?
Good. I'm doing great, guys, and it's always fun being part of anything that Geek Fruit is, up to. And I look forward to these shows. You've been up to some really cool stuff, and been following those very, very ardently. And thanks for the very, very flattering introduction.
I think this might have been the best intro we've ever given you. This one was special.
This is true.
I'm touched.
But Abhijit, so you're here today. Obviously, this show is about, indulging our guests in whatever they love to talk about, or at least haven't had the chance to talk about. And I know you've picked Mad Magazine. Is it safe to say it's done, right? Mad Magazine got concluded in 2018. Is that official and final?
So officially, they are not creating any brand new content, but they are getting issues out. They are mainly reprints, but the covers are uniquely different. So they still have new covers being made. They're still printing the stuff out, but it's mainly reruns from the older volumes. And there are collections, there are special issues that are coming out, but it's not the same subscription and periodicity as before. And you will find them mainly on the DC app, since it's a DC property now. Just to get my legit mad recent issues collections or whatever, I subscribe to the US Mad mailing service. It cost me quite a lot because it's pretty expensive when you're shipping it in. But it was totally worth it because the time I got my last issue, they ran one issue more and it was done. So I just wished I was I got that last issue as well, which could have been a collectible.
The interesting thing is that, when you said Mad Magazine, I personally never really collected it because I don't know, for some reason, maybe Dinkar can help me out here, but I don't remember ever reading it back home in Dubai, at least while I was growing up. But it was when I came to India and my older cousins would have these issues lying around and I would just pick them up.
It was not cheaply available, if I remember correctly, and I'm not entirely sure why, but you remember you'd have those grocery store aisles with the magazines in malls, and they'd have the fancy imported ones, including porno mags where they literally some poor guy had to go in and physically
and
scrub
black
out
marker.
all and basically defeat the purpose of it. So they were ridiculously expensive imports in the Middle East.
Yeah.
And I don't think you could get them cheaply. Tell me, Abhijit, were they more common here? And why did you pick Mad Magazine of the many, many things you're seriously in?
I don't know if I can make the connection here, but maybe Abhijit, you can. Is it I can tell that there is definitely some, lineage between your art style and your humor and Mad Magazine.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I've been asked, even we must have spoken about it at Comic-Con or something, where, where did I get most of my inspirations from, or who did I follow earlier? It was always, my answer has been Mad. And I was exposed to Mad when probably I was 9 years old. That was too young to start reading a Mad magazine. I probably saw it at a relative's place, and happened to speak to my dad about it, I think, and then he said, "Yeah, there is this humor magazine, you know." And I said, "Yeah, I'm intrigued because when I was flipping through the pages, not that I got any of the jokes, first of all, but it was the artworks, the exaggerations, you know, the art styles that they had, and they had such a varied range. So you had Maude Drucker, who used to do those movie spoofs, you know. You had Don Martin. Don Martin's artwork, I was a huge fan of. His sound effects, especially. Sergio Aragonés, my all-time favorite, and I think I might have picked up a few lines here and there from all these people. Paul Coker was another great artist. So something about the art style got me intrigued at that age, and that was the time I was reading like Tinkle. I was reading Asterix, Tintin, maybe a few DC Marvel issues, and there was Mad. Even out here, it was not available at bookshops. It was at these second-hand bookstores or Raddi Paper Marts.
Yeah, that is true.
Most of my older collection, older issues come from Raddi Paper Marts, and they were pretty mint in their condition back then. So I used to go with my dad, and every time I used to be there used to be this stack of Mad magazines on the side. So he had Mads, he had DCs, you know, these old ones. I think some bookshop somewhere must have just sold it off because it's not getting sold. And this guy used to have like a load of these. So I always used to look forward to these Raddi trips, you know, and I used to pick up issues. And back then, we used to get these for like $10, which was not cheap. I mean, I'm talking about 1993-ish or 1991-ish, you know, $10 was still a lot of money. But I used to get my, copies, and I used to look forward to those trips to those Raddi Paper Walas. And I think that little habit of always keeping an eye open for Raddi Paper Marts started from that age. I can still pick up the old issues and, you know, laugh out loud whenever I see those old spoofs on MASH, or maybe they had one on, do you remember that TV show called Manimal?
My God, we were just talking about it the other day, dude.
Really?
We only brought it up because there was a Rahul Roy movie in the 90s.
Junoon. We struggled for like 10 minutes trying to remember the name of it, and then we were talking about how that transformation scene scarred us for life.
And back then it was promoted that some Hollywood guy has done the prosthetics for Rahul Roy's tiger transformation. I was genuinely scared when I saw it, and I still remember that very creepy scene outside the swimming pool. He's killed this lady the previous night as a tiger, and the next morning, while the cops are just investigating, he's at the balcony just picking his teeth. Oh my God! Why?
The scariest part for me was when he transforms in front of Pooja Bhatt, and like Pooja Bhatt's like absolute like horror at like looking at Rahul Roy. You know, that scared me even more. Like that shit was like some like the thing, you know, like James Carpenter or some shit like that, man. It's crazy.
You know, you want to ask me any 90s bad movie trivia, you ask me. I've seen a lot of these movies, man.
Oh my gosh.
And Rahul Roy's filmography, I probably must have caught most of his early movies anyway.
So all his movies, basically.
Yeah, basically his entire career. But let me just come back to Mad Magazine since we've done this much.
That's the ostensible topic of the show.
I wanted to ask. I remember just the lampoonery of like, you know, of like when they would spoof like the big tentpole Hollywood film at that time.
Yep.
And invariably I would be going to India like in June, July, August. That was like our school holiday time. So all the big summer blockbuster films were coming out. And the one I remember very distinctly was like Spider-Man. And I remember Alfred E. Newman is being Peter Parker. And they just like, you know, as per usual, just like completely destroying the plot and like everything about these. And I just found those, I mean, they were so witty.
So here are those hardcore fans who go like, man, this is the way it is, and you know, this is how Spider-Man should be on screen. You know, we do that. We argue, you know, okay, this guy plays it like this guy has that serious. And here's Mad, which totally breaks it down and says, no matter what it might be, we are still going to make fun of it. And that was the beauty of it, you know. And movies, especially when it comes to movies, they had a lot of these movie-based spoofs. I've got a few. Like, one of the recent ones.
Oh, damn.
More recent ones was the Constantine one. Like, for example, this was under the Gotham imprint. If you remember the Gotham comics that, used to come in India, they used to run Mad, DC, Marvel, all these parallelly. And this was when Constantine was released, and I found this cover hilarious, because Constantine was a movie which again had a lot of haters and lovers, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I did.
But
yeah.
Mad had a take on it where he does that little scene, and
Yeah.
who knew?
Of course.
But one of the oldest issues I have is Psycho.
Oh, dude.
That looks
Yeah,
great.
this is from March 1984, and it says it's 25 years later, and Alfred E. Newman is still around. They've used that silhouette, and it's very true to the actual imagery of the movie.
The art has always been really, really, like, you know, what I used to love about it, it's just so detailed. Like, you know, they would have those splash pages also where it'll be such, like, complex, like, and very, very detailed kind of art. Even though it's like this, you know, body morphed kind of, like, you know, look of how they kind of create their characters, but it was very, very rich, you know.
And even more complex were these fold-ins, Al Jaffe's fold-ins, you know. You could fold this image
Oh, I
into
love
half,
this.
and it creates...
Yeah.
Oh
it
my
creates
god,
another
I
one.
remember this. This is so good.
And by the way, Al Jaffe just retired 2 months ago or something. He's aged 99, and he retired
Wow.
from drawing these for even the current Mads. Even if I think they were still running the
gosh.
fold-ins. And I never
crazy.
folded this. I never folded my books. I used to hold a ruler and just kind of figure out what might be, because I want to keep these as mint as possible. And this is Don Martin. This is Don Martin's work.
Oh, right, of course.
I used to love his art style.
Nice
So
of
here's
him.
a caveman drawing, you know, caveman stuff, and he teaches the others about how to draw, you know, how to draw on the walls. And these guys just go crazy with graffiti and nonsense.
And
So,
awesome.
you know, 1984, and here's one from 87, which is Alien.
Oh,
I think this is
dude.
Aliens.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's exploding out of the xenomorph, which I thought was hilarious.
Oh, man.
And here's Alfred himself
Nice.
saying, "What
Sorry.
me worry anyway."
Amazing.
Here's the
Yeah.
Superman one from 1981, October 1981. And not a single ad, by the way.
Yeah.
The old Mads did not have a single advertisement in it. They ran completely on subscription basis. Here's a fun fact. They started out as a comic back in, I think, the 50s. And there was something called the Comics Code Authority, which had a lot of censorship, you know, because they didn't want juvenile... Apparently, they linked juvenile crime with comics. So they said, you can't lampoon this, you can't make fun of that, you have to censor this, that. So, you know, William Gaines changed the format of the comic to a magazine, which is why it's called a Mad magazine. So he said, you know what? Mine is not a comic anymore, it's a magazine. I'm still going to run my jokes. And that's how the jokes happened.
Wow.
So
Man,
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I just brought some. I've got about 200-300 issues at home, but some very popular. As we speak, I think I'll just keep showing you all some covers. Here's one of my favorites. This is from
Oh,
92, when Batman Returns was out, and they've got the likeness of Keaton perfectly.
Bang on.
You know,
yeah.
so I used to look at these covers and I used to be like, oh man, they've spoofed Batman this time. I need to pick it up. One of my favorites was this. Joras has had it. I mean, look at the complexity of the art as well inside. This is Mort Drucker at his best. And
Absolutely.
a lot of times I use square dialogue bubbles in my comics. I love this Jeff Goldblum, by the way. Check this out.
Oh, that's solid. I feel like a lot of people had Mad as like an inspiration who I went on to admire, even though I didn't read it as much growing up. For example, Roger Ebert, film critic, used to say
Yeah.
that he learned to appreciate movies because of Mad Magazine. So the way the spoofs would kind of pick apart plot machinations and like basically like pull apart the skeleton of what a movie is, he was like, that's when I started to understand what movie making is like.
Wow.
Did it also like create a love for pop culture that you might not have heard of?
I think so, because a lot of things we weren't aware of in India, right? I mean, now it's a lot more accessible, but back then, like, there were issues with maybe some bands which I had no idea about, and I saw them in Mad first, and then probably on MTV that time, and I was like, oh wait, you know what? This is what they had spoofed in that issue. Certain movies that they talked about which looked like there was something. I think the Invasion of the Body Snatchers. That was a spoof that I read in the comic first, and then I saw the movie, and I was like, wait, this makes sense. I've picked up a lot from how Mad has shown it to us and probably have realized that that also exists. So TV shows.
Man, that's so true. I was just gonna say, yeah, like
Yeah.
growing up in the pre-internet world, I mean, like it's a really pertinent point. Like that Mad magazine probably deconstructed films well before, internet forums and stuff,
Correct.
did the same
Correct.
thing.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And I kind of sometimes understood, that this is how satire is done, because out here satire is seen in a very different way. We tend to feel bad, we get offended when someone talks something satirical about issues, and they're like, oh, how can you say something like that? That's not allowed. But here's Mad talking about every issue possible, every person possible, be it the president, be it leading veteran actors who are seemingly untouchable here. You can't make jokes on them. And here, these guys just lampoon everything, and that kind of made me think. If it's a cartoonist, a cartoonist's job is to make people aware of certain things. So whatever little I understood back then, now after growing up and while growing up, I started putting two and two together many times and understanding it. I still don't get many jokes in it, because I think from whenever those issues are, the 80s and 90s, we may not have even heard of those things happening. But yeah, I mean, that's how they've given us most of my pop culture introductions. And just before I stop talking about Mad, there was another comic series called Cracked.
Cracked is amazing.
Cracked is also, I think they have a YouTube channel now. I don't know if it is
Yeah, they have a
affiliated with the
website that has
magazine.
been around for a really long time.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is it the same
Yeah.
with the magazine affiliation? I'm not sure.
Cracked, the website. I mean, Cracked started as a parody of Mad Magazine, essentially. Like, they were trying to
Yes.
parody the parody.
Yes.
That's why
Yes.
the Crack's logo, even now, is like the same. It's the same style as Mad. So they
Yeah, it
pivoted to
looks like
becoming primarily a website in, I think, the early 2000s.
I haven't seen the website. I've subscribed to the channel. I need to check the website out. And there was an Indian one called Definitely Insane.
Whoa,
Nice.
what is this?
Yeah. Very few issues were out, and after that there was another one called Random Magazine. So Random Magazine was run by the same team as Comic Con India, and that is how I started drawing for them. That is how I know them, and that was my fun part, where I used to draw something close to Mad Magazine. I really had a fun time drawing for Random Magazine. This was in 2008 to around 2011 or 12. That was a humor spoof magazine, so we've spoofed a lot of things in that as well. So yeah, that is my Mad fanboying, and it came to fruition, or whatever you want to. The whole thing came into one very eventful day, which was about a couple of weeks ago, when Sergio Aragonés was on a Zoom call with the Animation Society of India, and we could all join it, and they had invited everyone. So I was there, and I didn't expect interactions, and then the Q&A started. So I just put my questions in the chat, and they actually took up my question, and I got a chance to talk to Sergio, and he addressed me. He saw my work in the back, which was right there. The hall wallpaper. I think you guys were at my place. You saw the wallpaper. So I was there. So he saw my work, and he said, "Are those your sketches?" And I was like, "Yeah, those are." And I was just stuttering, man. I just couldn't even speak anything.
That's
There's
amazing.
Sergio talking to me. So that was like my fanboy moment with the.
Abhijit,
Mad,
you have to stop being like so surprised when you get to finally meet your heroes. You've reached like a pretty big place in your life, man. Like a lot of
No,
people,
man,
I'm sure, feel the same way about like talking to you or taking classes from you
Wow.
and stuff like that, man. So yeah,
That means a lot to me. Thank you. But for me, Mad and Sergio was like a different thing. So I couldn't thank those guys enough for picking up my question and getting me to talk to him.
That's awesome, man. Damn. All right, we're gonna take a second here and move on to our next segment, which once again we still don't have a name for. What is it called, Dinkar?
I think it's called Hot Takes at this point, man. Like, we can't say
Now
we
we
don't
just have to
name
go
for
with
it when
this.
we keep calling it Hot Takes. It's
Cool.
Unless we can come up with a good Mad-inspired name.
I don't.
What me hot
I
take?
don't.
I got
What
that.
what me hot
What
takes?
me?
Yeah.
I like that. I like that.
Right. Welcome to What Me Hot Take. Abhijit, we're going to give you some subjects, and we need your quick fire opinions on them. So for starters, pick a camp, Tintin or Asterix.
Asterix. I have my answers ready. Whenever that Tintin or comes up, I know it's Asterix which is going to come up next.
Yeah.
And I've also followed the other episodes you all have done. I am always Camp Asterix. Although, I mean, I have ample respect. I love Tintin.
I know you have a
but
few
it gets-
figurines in your house, so I know
yeah,
that
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
do love Tintin as well. Yeah.
Totally. But Asterix figurines are a little difficult to procure. I have some Asterix miniatures. I learned a lot of world history through Asterix as well. You know, the whole Julius Caesar angle and the Brutus angle and the way they joke about it. You know, just small anecdote. You know, once in I think Asterix the Gladiator. So they start applauding Asterix while he does something in the arena, in the Colosseum, and Brutus is sitting there brooding because he's always shown to be plotting against his father as a side joke, right? So everyone's applauding. Julius Caesar is also applauding. He looks at Brutus and says, "Et tu, Brutus," and Brutus starts clapping. That is such a clever joke, you know. And again, as a kid, I didn't get it. I was like, okay, fine, it's funny, but when I, growing up, I knew what it was. I was like, that's brilliant. So always Camp Asterix.
Next up, Diamond Comics and Raj Comics. Were you in favor of one over the other, or like, do you have any memories of them?
I was more Diamond for whatever exposure I had because I couldn't access them as much, growing up because the bookshop from where I used to get my tinkles didn't really keep many Diamond and Raj. And actually speaking, I used to see a lot fewer Raj and Diamond comics in Mumbai than maybe when I was traveling to Delhi or up north. Somehow the circulation, at least in my area, I don't want to offend either companies, but I really could not access any of these. So whatever I did read back then were Diamond comics, and there was this one series called Chotu Lambu, which was drawn by Shehab. Shehab was a brilliant artist. He was a cartoonist who's even drawn a character called Chaman Charlie. Unfortunate, unsung Indian cartoonist who did not get much due. Excellent work. Chotu Lambu was what I read as a kid. There was this tall guy and there's this very short guy who sits in the tall guy's pocket and they run off towards adventures. The title was such a, because what they used to do was they used to translate literally the Hindi titles into English, literal. So the title was Chotu Lambu and the Tumultuous Lion, and I was like, what the hell does that even mean? Tumultuous Lion. I loved the kind of art there.
Nice.
So for me, I think Camp Diamond more. But again, when I got access to Raj, I appreciated what they've done as well. And they have a lot of animated content as well on YouTube, by the way. Both these companies. There is Fighter Toads was a series by Raj, I think. They had a animated series which was, I think, aired on some channel and now it's on YouTube.
These titles are fantastic, I must say.
Yeah, Fighter Toads. You must look them up.
That sounds so
Nagraj had a pilot shot with Sonu Sood playing Nagraj. Yeah, there were a lot of these vigilante detective series on TV that time. Commander. Then there was Raja or Rancho. Remember that one, the detective and a dog?
Yeah.
there were a lot of
yes.
these.
Yeah. I do remember
Yeah.
that.
Next topic. Tell us about childhood cartoons. Were you a He-Man kid?
Totally. 10:30, I think 10 o'clock or 10:30 Sunday mornings, Doordarshan. And there were reruns later during our summer holidays at around 12 noon to 2:30 called Afternoon Transmission Fun Time. Doordarshan had a very nice,
Nice.
Captain Obvious kind of a titling to it. Like, we'll play this in the afternoon and guess what we're going to call it? Afternoon Transmission.
That's so good.
But yeah, so I used to follow He-Man very religiously. Of course, the action figures also helped. There was Fraggle Rock, which was, I don't know if you remember, like the Muppets. There was Street Hawk, which was not an animated show, of course, it was a live action show.
Yeah.
Oh, and there was something called Gayab Aya. Gayab is a ghost. It was like Casper, only Indian. So Casper with a turban.
Nice.
And it was legit the first Indian animated. No. It was legit first Indian animated series, to air on national television.
Gaya Baya is an Indian animated television series made in 10 parts. Yeah, Doordarshan. But
10
do go to
10 episodes,
Casper
10
type
weeks.
Naughty Ghost. It's there
Yeah.
in the bio.
It's like
Amazing.
mad to cracked.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty
exactly.
much.
There was another one with a very funny, weird sounding name, Potli Babaki. It had a jingle, Junjar Wale, Jhenu Wale or something. And this guy used to come and open his potli and a story would come out.
Yeah.
And there were these puppet birds who used to listen to his stories.
Like, seems like the best stuff is behind us, man. I don't know why.
It is.
All right, Abhijit, next subject for you. Give us your opinion on the state of Disney live-action remakes.
Oh man. No, they should just burn them all. It's clear they're doing it for
Cash monies.
top recall money. Yeah, obviously it looks like it, but when they announced Jungle Book, I was like, you know what, this is going to be interesting because we grew up seeing these movies on cassettes. So seeing it in live action, fine. Jon Favreau, okay. Then they come up with the Aladdin, and I was like, okay. And we see the film, and I was like, I don't know what to even make of it because Jafar would have been such an amazing character to see
Yeah.
live if they really had to make it, and it just falls flat. And then they announced a whole bunch of this. I stopped seeing these. I have not seen
Yeah.
any of these recent. I will not see Mulan. I have avoided Lion King like the plague. The one that I really want them to make in a remake in a live action one, and they will not, is a movie called The Black Cauldron.
Yeah, of course. Love the Black Cauldron.
Right, it was a massive flop. It was dark. It was actually a horror, horror based whatever.
Yeah. It was like a gothic
story.
kind of like film.
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
It's unvaulted, so it's on Disney Plus right now, so you can watch it.
I have the comic version of this movie, by the way.
Okay, cool.
And I read that first, and then I saw the film, and I was like, man, that's dark. They won't go near it because that didn't make money, right? So why would they?
Exactly.
I think people should stop seeing them, but people are still going to flock to the theaters and say, "Ooh, I saw Lion King."
Dumbo, did you watch Dumbo?
See, I saw a bit of it on Hotstar, and I tuned off halfway.
I mean, we love Tim Burton, but yeah, I think.
Yeah.
I know
think
it
it's-
didn't feel like a Tim Burton film. Let's not take it away from that. Dumbo is a sweet story, animated. You show it like National Geographic just had a ventriloquism thing going for them. Doesn't work.
Dumbo also sounds like another Mad Magazine parody, like that Insane Mag from
Yeah.
Mad,
Yeah,
Cracked,
exactly.
Insane Mag, and Dumbo. Alright, that's it for What Me? Hot Takes.
Awesome.
Nice. This is good. Yeah, this is fun.
Abhijit, basically, it was just like a hang, as per usual.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
This is
yeah,
why
yeah.
it's so much fun.
Thank you, Abhijit, so much for being on the episode. Before you leave, is there anything that you want to plug, pimp out? Now's the time.
You can visit my website, kinneystudios.com, and you can check out the shop section. There's a comics section in that. We have our e-comics up for downloads, which for $50 each, which is very cheap. You can also order the other things that we have, like these cool clay figurines that we get done with an NGO partner of ours who
That's awesome.
hand sculpt these and we split profits. There are the collectibles that if you can't come to a Comic Con, you can always buy it from our shop. So visit kinneystudios.com, and I think that's something I would plug. They'll find all the other handles right there. So kinneystudios.com is what I would say. I have repeated that like 4 times.
And we'll put it in the description. Awesome.